All right, so we did a reading of Linda. I have to go pick her up. We did a reading of Grace, aka Werevlog screenplay, The Scene, the Tavern. We're having a key issue with their vehicle, and it's an older vehicle. I don't know how she did it. She's kind of a genius. We're going to go pick her up right now. So, all right, we have good news. But I'm headed that way now. Never mind, it wasn't as bad as I thought, so no key problem. But still very stressful when you have a 2009 vehicle. Mine of course is 2019, but when you have a 2009 pre-owned vehicle with one key, I ask for prayer. You know, you have to. You're forced to. Your hands sometimes are put behind your back in a way, and you're forced to ask for prayer. It's just the way life is. But I do ask for prayer for all of us. Listen, in a million years, I'm going to tell you this, in a million years, alcohol will never work. It'll Matthew Perry you. And I hate to be mean and say that, but it will. Matthew Perry is a wake-up call to all the actors out there hiding in disguises from Hollywood to the UK. It will never work. The addiction to alcohol and drugs never works. Not on my set. And let me tell you something. If you are an alcoholic or a drug addict, get help. Seek help. Find a sponsor. Find someone that cares and loves for you to watch over you and struggle with you on this war that you're at. Because that's what alcoholism is. It's a war upon your family. It's a war upon your friends, your cousins, the people that you know. You're warring on them. You have committed war against them. Get help and find sobriety so that you may know Jesus Christ, the only one that's going to pull you out of anything, because he cannot work in your life if you are sitting there sucking down a beer. I don't want to make the whole world Baptist, but what I'm trying to say is if you're the type to go to the grocery store and buy a case of beer, you have a drinking problem and you're going to die like Matthew Perry. Wake up. Matthew beat it. I don't know how he went out, but he eventually beat it, but it got him in somehow. We don't know everything, and they're going to be, all the alcoholics and drug addicts are going to go, well, we don't know if it was addiction problem towards the end. Well, he had it, and he wrote about it, and it nearly killed him, and he finally died. And listen, other people out there are going to do the same if you continue on. This is a wake-up call. And my screenplay, okay, it's a screenplay, it's a movie. The monster is the alcohol. The werewolf is the drug. And it'll get... I don't want to sound mean. The world's going to be a broken place. And I don't want to put down all the alcoholics in the world. I know there's great writers and great artists out there. I can name hundreds of them. And I'm not dissing on their personage. I'm just worried about them. And I feel that when I was young and almost becoming an addict, I was told to stop by people that loved me. And I found the theater, and I did. I stopped. I never took another hit of acid. I tried not to ever smoke any weed or anything. I don't see it as a cure-all. I think God works through sobriety. And we all need a trip on sobriety. We need to find that and find how it works in our life. Because it's a serious thing, and you have to be careful on it. Just please pray for sobriety for all the people that are struggling with addiction. In different ways. All right. Thank you. What are you wearing?
How are you, dear? How are you?
What are you wearing? I'm setting up a reading of the Grace, aka Werevlog screenplay. You scared me. So you didn't lock them in your...
No, I left it on top of the soap dispenser.
That's why you mentioned the soap dispenser. She's okay now. That's why you mentioned the soap dispenser. Got it. She can't lock those keys in the car. Oh, man. okay. Okay, so you're okay. I want to see this getup. What's this getup that she has right here? What? Hey. What is this, No, I know you're taking a sip. Hey, listen, where did you get this getup?
It's your mom's sweater.
Where did she send it to you in the mail? What are you dressed up as?
Old lady.
An old lady? I'm a version of Jackson, Maine. Stars Born.
Did you make any money today?
I got the... That's not too. I'm working on a script. But if you're dealing with someone that has addiction, and it's going to be Linda with alcohol. She admitted it to me last night, of course, and she's done it before. You don't want to hound it. And I put it on the show occasionally to talk about it, to help others. But I guess I wrote this werewolf screenplay because it partially deals with addiction. Rainy Love actually is an ex-rock star. I don't show her drinking because I think she's recovered at this point. So she's like in a retired stage. But you see her past and how wild she was. I don't really think they talk about... They just talk about things that they like and stuff. They don't really talk about addiction and things. It doesn't have that in there. It doesn't mention it in that way. The werewolf is kind of a version of addiction and maybe alcoholism or drugs. And maybe that's why Gerald Ullman III is so fixating and killing it, you know. It's a monster that's out there that's there for a reason, the werewolf. Now, John Blacksmith, I think, mentioned some stuff. I want to say he mentioned something. Yeah, he does. He mentioned shrooms and LSD. Yeah, so we know that Blacksmith actually mentions drugs. But yes, and Gerald Ullman does have, yes, you see that he's addicted to Scotch whiskey, and they drink Scotch whiskey in the Uber. So yeah, it does come across in the script, but not on Rainy Love and Grace's side as much. I just want to make note of that for Grace, aka Werevlog. I'm kind of making a director note, if you can see me. Kubrick never really tried to be funny. He was always direct. So his humor came out of the fact that he was witty and extremely intelligent. And the scenes were high intelligence. It's high comedy. There's some slapstick, but it's mostly high comedy because, like, why in the world? Like in Ryan O'Neal, I'm still watching it. And Barry, Kubrick's ghost is just kind of going like this. Just go ahead and talk, Cole. It's fine. It's fine. But Kubrick was very appreciative of Ryan O'Neal and Barry Lyndon. Sorry. There's no Larry in there, but Barry Lyndon, there is an L, but he was highly appreciative of Ryan O'Neal. I don't think he probably hounded him too much. Ryan O'Neal was like probably the biggest movie star of that era, of that time, probably. Ryan O'Neal was offered Rocky, and Sylvester Stallone wrote the role. It was for Sylvester Stallone and did really well, and they won an Oscar for Best Picture with Rocky. It would have been very strange having Ryan O'Neal play. It would have been interesting, but it was for Sylvester Stallone. But we're talking about Barry Lyndon, and also other things that he's done. But I imagine how he worked with Ryan O'Neal, and he was probably very kind to him, always maybe complimenting him, maybe, and telling him very good, But the performance was very still. It was a great performance by Ryan O'Neal, and the movie is amazing. It's probably going to be on my top 10. I'm talking about it, think about it all the time. It's very seductive. It's very carnal. It's very intelligent, and it's humorous. And some feel Kubrick is our best. The argument on surreal is going to be David Lynch, but in reality aspects, Kubrick is probably one of the best. He called for so much, and he would do hundreds of takes and stuff. And I think that had to do with the theater, and I think it had to do with putting the actors in a state very similar how Grotowski, a Jersey Polish director, in a way, kind of tortured his actors, or at least exercised them to a point of resonance. Because Hollywood is very kind to the actors in some cases. They're they have a union. I don't know what they felt about 100 takes in The Shining. And the scene that he did that to particularly was a young boy, when he mentions the fact that when the caretaker mentions The Shining. He talks about The Shining. And I think they did that 100 times, and it's a brilliant scene. I think it's probably one of the all-time greatest scenes in cinema. Definitely. It's eerie, but he knew what he was doing with the music, and he knew what he was doing with his operatic performance. And I do seriously feel that there is a ghost of Stanley Kubrick in today's society. In today's times, there is a ghost of Stanley Kubrick. People talk about him all the time. He's an empire. He has a way he can get into your head in his cinema. I think he's the only filmmaker that I know, and I have to say this for real, that can actually get into your soul if you have a soul, and most people do. But he can get into it. Everyone has a soul. But he can find a way to tap into it. Not in your dreams, in your soul. He can get into your dreams too. But he eerily gets into your soul, as if he's trying to steal your soul. What is that play? I know. I Hate Hamlet. Where the guy is going to do a Central Park Shakespeare play. It's called I Hate Hamlet. I'll have to look. I've mentioned it in my vlog before. I'll have to look up the playwright. It's a comedy. He is visited by the ghost Barrymore. Basically the grandfather, the great-grandfather, I believe, of Drew Barrymore. And he has to deal with Barrymore's suggestions. It's psychology, the whole play. And he has to deal with being coached by this ghost, Sir John Barrymore. And he goes through this trouble. And it's a comedy. And this kind of a little bit is this, because I guess I'm using Kubrick as a guide. You have to have some fixed guide in your head, because there's so many decisions that you can make in a film, and you cannot crossbreed directors. I think all directors have a favorite, but you can certainly borrow from more than one. I mean, Quentin will sit there and talk about maybe 20 or 30 of them in one single scene, I've heard. And he'll talk about many plays in one little scene. Screenplays. Or he'll talk about movies. And he'll use the terminology of movies. Well, he'll use movies as a terminology, as a speech. Like, all right, this is 1970s, Kurt Russell. So what's going to happen here? And then I know, I just know. I haven't met him, but I know. And that's great. But there's nothing wrong with going with one, and there's nothing wrong with just also, Linkletter has had an effect on me on this, because when I went to Austin, I did the filming location, I realized, wait a minute, this is the squarest shot that you can have for this drop-off point from Roy's taxi. This looks like a stage. This shot is flat. You can't tell what's over here, and you can't tell what's over there. And you're looking straight. I see. Richard Linkletter is a filmmaker. Then what Richard Linkletter did was he stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and went over 20 feet over to the road, and in our minds, in the movie, we're in a different neighborhood. You got to go to Austin and figure this out with Roy taxi scene. You got to walk through the actual path that Richard Linkletter took. If you're going to be a filmmaker, I don't care if you're in Japan, I don't care if you're in Russia, I don't care if you're in North Dakota or somewhere in Hollywood, fly to Austin immediately, do this Roy's taxi, and hit and run. It's right next to each other, right there between San Antonio, right on West 24th Street, before Nueces Street, and figure it out and walk through it and see what this genius did. Then he pulls back and he makes this whole place look like two different worlds. It is completely amazing. I don't know if all directors could do that, but Linklater is a mad genius. And he has an Oscar for Best Picture for Boyhood. What he did was he didn't condense time and space. He took a condensed area of Austin and created a ton of space. You know, created these two different worlds, Hit and Run and Roy's Taxi Drop Off, you know. But what I'm trying to say is that there's so many choices that you can make. And I think, you know, Kubrick he paid attention to detailed stuff, especially the slow zoom. And I think that he also had some wide shots and extreme wide shots. And he used those very craftively. Woody Allen has done the same with both and has also mic'd the actors while they're far away. And it has established that, which I think I may be taking from Woody for this opening sequence called The Death of the Gothic Vlogger, which isn't the opening any longer. There's a narrator sequence, and then it goes into, I believe it goes into the cat eating, and then we go to Marfa, Texas at night, and there's this huge field. I always think about it when I'm over here by this Sonic and looking at this field. But you can borrow from different filmmakers to help you along the way. But I think there's reality to Grace, aka Werevlog screenplay, okay? And I'm going to show you this field. Okay, guys, another important note. I know that if anyone, hang on, wait a second. Sorry, I do a thing, it's called freaking out. And, you know, I have to say that I probably should maybe be like Linda, even though she has some problems, she's very good at kind of helping me along the way. And there may be times where we may all have to like take a break if I direct. And I did very well during September 11th. I actually walked towards the buildings on fire. Don't know why. That doesn't sound like me. I would have more like run away, but I think I was so overcome with fear that I just was attracted to it and lost my fear for a moment and got over it. I can deal with it. I can deal with stars and movie stars and all that stuff. We can all take breaks and count to 10. But this has to do with my top 10 or top 11 all-time favorite films. And I wanted to talk about that because some of these films, I do have a personal interest in it and why I chose the films. And then those are going to be switched up. So, you know, I have the number one film, of course, of all time on my top list, which is Taxi Driver. And it'll be tough for that one to lose its spot. And then, of course, I recently saw Who's That Knocking at My Door, which is one of Scorsese's almost student films, which I think is one of his most brilliant pieces. I put it as number 2. But what I've decided to do, since Scorsese's on my top 11 films of all time, on the very top of the list, I decided to be fair to other filmmakers to make my top 11. A lot of them are American. I do have a Swedish one named Ingmar Bergman. He made it twice with Seventh Seal and Wild Strawberries. We all know that Blue Velvet is number 6, and that's going to move up. Blue Velvet can move up, maybe even way up higher, because what I'm going to do with my top 11 is I'm only going to be able to allow myself to choose one director to make that top 11. So other guys that are, you know, I'm being very generous to Gus Van Sant because I'm choosing him with My Own Private Idaho and Paranoid Park, which I think Paranoid Park is a fabulous movie. I think it's a great movie. So is My Own Private Idaho. That one will make my top 10. But I'm only going to choose those slots to be for like one director. So I'm going to rework it. So you could be out there, and we could see maybe Woody Allen making that top 11 as well, because Woody Allen has a major effect on me. And so I feel like I've neglected, even though I've put hundreds of movies down, I feel like I've neglected some of the directors and not making that top 11. Francis Ford Coppola made it. I think it was number 8. He made it with The Conversation, and I really love that film. I consider it to be one of his best. And he's probably going, Cole, what about Apocalypse Now? But he would do it like this. Cole, you know how he does it, all those film directors reaching back behind here, scratching, So, Apocalypse Now is a masterpiece too, and I feel it's horrible that I didn't make it on the top 11. But these were personal films. The Conversation had a more personal effect on me because of the music and Gene Hackman's performance, and it was just an amazing moment when I saw it. And I saw these films when I was younger. Ingmar Bergman's Seventh Seal changed the way that the whole cinema could be expressed, and its epic, wide shot approach and black and white stillness, and Wild Strawberries for its surreal approach. I don't know which one to choose from. Maybe Seventh Seal, because it's just more epic. Max von Sydow and everybody, and the way Death looks and his makeup. I'm not really a film theorist. I just speak from my heart, and I kind of talk like I would be talking about a friend. I don't always know names and stuff. And why The Shining's on there, which is also Kubrick's masterpiece. I went ahead and added Kubrick's Lolita. I don't want to talk about why, but it did have a personal effect on me because of Peter Sellers' dedication in that, especially the opening scene alone. So the opening scene of Lolita, I thought he was taking big risks. Fellini made it with 8.5, even though all of Fellini's stuff is masterful, just like all David Lynch's stuff is masterful. I mean, it could easily be all David Lynch from 1 all the way to 11, but I don't feel that's fair. So David Lynch's Blue Velvet will be up there. 8.5 will be up there. We're probably going to see a Woody Allen be put up there. And I'm probably going to stay with Stardust Memories, because I saw that when I was being treated. It was kind of like a stabilization ward when I was younger, in my 20s. My mom brought it to me and said, hey, Cole, let's watch some Woody Allen Stardust Memories, because she knew I was a Woody Allen fan. So we watched it together. So it has a personal effect on me. And so Stardust Memories will be making the top 11. I also did put Sean Baker on there for Florida Project. I'm not going to change that. He's going to stick with the top 11 on Sean Baker. But I do look at that list all the time, and I do think, like, why am I doing this to the other filmmakers? So we're going to reconsider that list over some time, and I'll repost it on my Facebook. Jaws made it too, which is, Linda's coming back. Jaws made it, which I think is like a number 10 spot, and that will remain too. Do you want me to call it? Are you wanting me to call the cell phone? Okay, sorry about that.